Hey everybody, Deanna here, and I just wanted to come in and do a little video on a couple of simple watercolor techniques. And this video is inspired by an art class that I'm teaching in Eugene, Oregon, at one of our local community centers called the Petersen Barn. And this class started last night, and I really wanted to do another demo for the class so that they had something to practice with between now and next week. And so I am sharing this on my YouTube channel, and it will be available for everybody. And I'm excited about the watercolors that I've been doing, and so I wanted to share a little bit about where my inspiration has been coming from, how it started, and then do a little painting together. So it really started last fall. I started teaching at the Petersen Barn in Eugene, Oregon, and so I've been looking for projects online to do watercolor and collage, which is what I love, but I don't have all the ideas in my head, and so I was looking for some things to do with the class, and I came across Tina Jensen art and saw some of her little tiny collage landscapes, which inspired me to do something similar with watercolor and collage. And so really this new direction that I've been going started there. And then somebody gifted me for my birthday a beautiful Sennelier watercolor set, and the colors are just amazingly vibrant and beautiful, and I started playing with those. And if you've been following me at all, you know that typically my work is done on tan-toned mixed media paper, pretty muted color palette, and now all of a sudden I'm into these really bright colors, and so I've been excited about that. And my time in Mexico and all of the colors there really started contributing to new direction, and with the watercolor and with mark making and landscapes and some nature, bringing in nature and just the flow, and really getting into the connection between the pigment of the paint and the water and what that does together. And so I was working on some things in Mexico and looking at Pinterest, and I came across Denise Love, or Two Owls Studio, and she has a ton of tutorials on YouTube. If you haven't been to her channel, I highly recommend it. Denise Love. I will put her information in the comments. And she shared about Kate Rebecca Leach. And so I looked her up. And so I've got some inspiration and influence from these three different artists. And when I got home from Mexico, I did buy both of Kate Rebecca Leach's watercolor books, which are really beautiful. And so this also gave me some more project ideas for my class, which was just fabulous. For instance, she has a project in here with pebbles. Let's see if I can find that. I should have marked it, but I didn't really plan out this. So this beautiful pebbles, and what I like about this project that she has is it's a lot of experimentation and playing with the pigment and the flow of the water, and how when you touch one color to the next they flow into each other. And so I've really been playing around with that and experimenting with that. And so instead of pebbles, I did hearts, because Valentine's Day is coming, and so I thought that I would do some hearts. And then, you know, playing with pattern and the gold. I love this gold pen. It's, I don't have it right here. It is the Pentel Gold Sparkle Pop, It is the shiniest gold pen that I have come across so far, and I love that. And when I was making this, I also fell in love with the green gold and the carmine pink, and then I used a little bit of Payne's gray to create some purples, and then it just kind of blossomed from there with some more watercolor ideas. So I did these little hearts, and you can see I really didn't want to cover up all this beautiful color mixing and blooming that was happening here, but I did do some lines, some line work, some dots, and a little bit of botanicals, and I found a collage statement from a book and cut that piece out. So I did a couple of those, and I was really happy with those. And again, this one I used the copper jelly roll metallic for this one because I thought the copper would be pretty with the pink and the green, but I think the gold is beautiful too. And then I did this circular kind of nature world piece, and I wanted to give the feel of a tunnel that you are being drawn into that, and also have the, you know, the eye goes around and follows the fish and the botanicals and the bees, and just kind of getting that swirl feel. But again, I loved the beautiful colors and how they flow in together. And the green, gold, and the carmine kind of did a little bit of orange there. The Payne's gray bloomed really lovely into the green gold, and it was just really gorgeous. I had a hard time drawing on it, and I thought, oh, it's just an experiment, so we're going to do it anyway. So in my watercolor class last night, what we practiced, excuse me, was just getting used to laying some swatches down, swatches of color, and how the brush feels in your hand, how much pigment to use, how much water to use, and what happens when you paint wet paint on dry paper and wet paint on wet paper. And we primarily played around with that and then started to create a pattern template. And here's a sample card that I did for the class, and is what I'm going to demonstrate here. And we'll do wet on dry, wet to dry, so this is like half and half, wet on wet, and then bleeding with water. And this one is bleeding with color. You can see I've used the green, gold, and the carmine. I'm just loving those two colors together. So I am going to, I'm using this little watercolor pan, and I'm going to spraying all of them. You never know what you might want to use. I've got a little bit of paint left in my pan from last night's class, and I'm just going to keep that in there right now. It'll reactivate with the water. And I'm not going to tape this or take the time to pencil out a grid or anything like that. It's going to be just natural placement of squares, and I like the kind of live edges where they're not even and straight. It gives it a more organic feel. So that is where we're going to start today. And I'm just going to get all this color going in here. And I think that the balance, I'm actually going to clean that out, is finding how much pigment do you want versus how much water do you want and when. So this is my green gold. That is not a Sennelier brand. It might be Golden brand, QOR, if you're familiar with that. It's an older color, and this is my carmine, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And let's see, I'll get my indigo in case I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to activate my indigo, my Payne's Gray, in case I want to use that. So my pan, I don't know if you can see, is pretty wet, and I'm really rolling my brush around in that, and I can see that the paint is really activated in the pan, but the whole pan is not mushy. It's, you know, the top that is releasing the pigment with the water. And then I'm just going to lay a line of paint down with the body of the brush. This is wet paint on dry paper. I think that is not the color I thought. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think it's pinker. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do half and half. So I'm going to do wet here, wet paint on dry paper. And I'm going to rinse my brush. So now I have just water, and I've dabbed my brush off a little bit so there's not too much. And I'm going to come and make this part of the paper wet and come back in with my paint and touch that, and you can see it's releasing into that water. So you can see the difference between the two. And if you don't want all that pigment sitting there, you can move it around and just dab it until it's where you like it. Now we can do a whole square of wet on wet. Eventually the paint, you might want 2 jars of water, one that is clean water and one that you're rinsing your brush off, because I can see I have some pink in my water. I have some pink pigment that is coming. And this is the green gold. And this is wet paint on wet water, wet paper. And that pigment will follow wherever it is that you put that water. All right, now we're going to do wet paint on dry paper. And I'm going to rinse my brush and kind of wipe it off on the jar a little bit so it still has some water but not too much. And I'm going to run the tip of my brush along this bottom edge and let the paint bloom into that water. And so that pigment that we laid down up here is going to be drawn into the water down there. And while your paint is still wet, you can bleed water or color into the wet paint by just dipping your tip of your brush in the paint and then dabbing it on your paper. And you can do that with just water too. I don't know if this is going to be too dry. Nope. And this will show up later. You'll see it. It'll take a minute for that to have an effect. And you can do color bleeding into color. So laying that down and then rinsing your brush, changing color, and doing the same thing we did over here with water with paint. And letting the pink and green bleed into each other. Alright, so I'm just going to do that a few more times. My preferred is the wet paint on dry paper and then pulling the paint down with another color or with water. And you can do it sideways. Alright, now I'm going to mix a little bit of my green and my pink, and I'm going to get an orange color. I'll just do this one solid. Put a little bit more green in it. And just experiment with mixing colors and what happens when you mix them. Let's see if we can do some blooms. Oh yeah. So you can see there's a lot, there's like 50% of each, pigment and water, maybe even a little bit more water. So I get more transparency, I can see more texture of the paper, whereas here I have a nice layer of pigment and so it's less transparent. And so another thing to think about as you are playing with the watercolor is how much transparency do you need for what you're doing. And because I did not tape my paper, it is starting to ripple a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to let it and deal with it. Another thing that you can practice with is, get a smaller brush here, is lifting the paint up. So with a damp brush with no paint on it, you can press the body of the brush down and across the paint, and it will lift the paint away from the paper. And you have to do this when the paint is still fairly wet, and also some paints naturally have more transparency than others, and so more or less will be lifted depending on the transparency of that paint. I'm trying to capture some blooms while the paint is still a little bit wet. It's not all super wet, so. All right, let's finish these rows up. I love bringing the water into the line of paint there and letting it bleed in. I think that's so pretty. How it dries can be so beautiful. And you can also create kind of like trees. Let's see. So I've got a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm going to just tap. Oh, I got too much water. And I'm going to rub it across, and I'm going to lift, like, not make a straight line, make a little bit squiggly line. I didn't have enough water. All my water dripped into the pigment. All right, we'll try that again. Did it a little bit. I'm not at the best angle for my hand. So kind of leaving little spaces there and playing with that, where then the pigment gets drawn out to the various connections, where it connects, and then not where it doesn't. And you can, it gives it kind of a landscapey feel, like that's a horizon line and these are clouds, and maybe there's some trees or some greenery up there on a hill. Let's see. Oh, look, I have a hair in there. Oh. Gross. All right, I'm going to do, we can also do circles. And then take a clean brush with a little bit of water and go around the edges this way. I can't turn my paper because I guess I can. I'm on camera. And I just keep continuing to kind of adding wetness to the paper to continue to draw the pigment out. See if I can do that again. So it's a way to soften edges. And create kind of a sphere. We'll see what happens with that. Alright, I'm going to do a couple more things here. Just to fill the page up. Alright, I don't love that little circle, but I'm going to let it dry. I like this one a lot. So I recommend then going back and looking at what did you like about what you did? What would you want to try again? I kind of want to, how wet is that? Oh yeah, it's wet. See if I can get some blooms in there. And my paper is a little warped, and so you can see that the color is pooling, and so I can lift it, and that will also help change the direction of the paint, and the pigment can fill up in some other areas. Alright, so I set aside my color squares for a minute, and I wanted to show you the other thing that I encourage people to make is a reference card of your colors. So I was calling that pink color that I was using Carmine, but I am pretty sure it's Opera Rose. And when I look at my little square, it is Opera Rose. So when I laid it down, I knew it was too pink. Carmine is this color, which is a little bit redder, has some pink, but it's redder, and that is the color that I really like with the green gold. So what I wanted to do was do one of my little hearts, one of these guys, on this sample paper that I have here, and just demonstrate how that water flows so beautifully together. Cleaning out my palette because I want to make sure that I'm using my Carmine, which is this one. Nope. This one. So I think, you know, that now I can see that, but it looked so red to me that I didn't pick it. Anyway, get that out of the way. I'm going to keep using that guy. So I'm going to spray this again to get it a little bit activated. And for my hearts, I started with the green gold. This is going to be a slow process because I did let layers dry, and I didn't help them dry because I like the flow, the natural flow that I get. So I did a heart, and then how I was demonstrating with the circles, and I came back in with clean water, and I'm coming around the edges to help that pigment flow, and kind of a wiggly line to get it before it dries too fast, otherwise you'll get hard lines. And so you can decide, do I like that hard line? Do I want to keep that one? And I think I do like that. And while this is pretty wet, I am going to come in with my Carmine because I want them to blend a little bit. So I'm going to come down to the point and I'm using the body, both the body and the tip of the brush, to move the paint around. And I hesitated here because I don't want too much. I don't want to completely cover the green gold, and I really like the sharp edge that I'm getting here and here, and I'm going to pull this in a little bit more, kind of creating that tunnel effect. And I like the heart shape to be kind of misshapen a little bit. And then when this dries, I will come in with the Payne's Gray and do a line in there. So I'll be back for that. Alright, so this is almost dry, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a smaller brush. With my Payne's Gray. Just kidding, I'm going to use my bigger brush. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm coming in and I'm laying the paint down, and I'm coming back with a clean brush to help it bleed. And I'm going to do just a little bit, I think right here. I'm looking for really soft, flowy layers here. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll come in with our markers. For the, move some of this out of the way, for the doodles on here, I'm going to be using, this one I used the Jelly Roll metallic Sakura brand pen. But I got new pens, and so this is the Mangaka Opaque Liner from Kiritaki, and it's new, so I want to try them out. So this one is copper. This is the same set in white, and it was a metallic set. The white isn't metallic, but it came with a gold, silver, copper, and white. And then I'm using my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, black, permanent, waterproof, 0.5. I like 0.3 better, but all of my 0.3s are dead. So it will have to be. So I'm going to do a few lines, squiggly heart lines, to kind of give the heart some structure, and I'm going to add the botanicals and the little organic dots. So I'm not making a complete heart with the pen. I'm kind of looking at the different areas of flowing paint, and where do I want to have the line, and what do I want to make sure to not cover up. Like, I really like these blooms here and here, and so I don't want to hide that. If anything, I would want to draw the eye to it. And I'm going to let that dry a little bit. The white's going to show up really nice on the black, or the darker areas. where the paints have overlapped, like here, where the green and the black, or the green and the Payne's Gray have overlapped a bit. And then I'm looking, you know, what's the composition of my heart look like? Where does it need where do the botanicals need to go? And I think that this side of the heart is a little bit thicker in the middle, so I'm going to put them on that side. And I think the eye will go around this way. So that's why I am choosing that side. And I'm doing 3 because it's an odd number, and for some reason that is more interesting to our brain than even numbers. And now I'm going to put the copper color in these leaves here. And I'm also making sure not to get the side of my hand in the ink. It may not be quite dry yet, so just be cognizant of that. I could actually turn my paper upside down and then I don't have to worry about that at all. Except now going this direction, so. I found watercolor is a little bit difficult to teach in class. It's not like I can have a canvas standing upright and people can see what I'm doing. And you know, I can have people gather around and that kind of thing, and that's okay. It's I just think it's hard to see, so I just wanted to make a video for my class, and I hope that that they take a look and that it was helpful for them. And if you're watching, my classmates, I hope that this has been helpful and fun. I'm doing just some little organic dots, some in the heart, some out of the heart, and also kind of, you know, still thinking about what direction is the eye going. So the you know, the dots and then the botanicals and then the dots again, they're kind of helping your eye, leading your eye to where you want it. And I don't think you can see the shine on the camera, but it's really pretty. think it kind of looks nice without the outline, but I'm already here, and I think I would also like it better if it was with a finer pen. But that's, again, it's not what I have right now, so this is it. And then if you wanted, you could find a statement from a little saying from a book, or if you like your handwriting, you could go in and, you know, write something yourself by hand. But I'm going to leave this one here and just hope that this was, again, that this was helpful, that you learned something about just the wet on wet, wet on dry, and how the paint and water start to work together and impact each other and the different effects that you can get. And thanks for watching, as always, and I will put some comments in below about the colors that I use, the pens, and also the information about the artists that are inspiring me now. Okay, hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.